familia na jamii. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na serikali ya Kenya.
Good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Channel One NewsHour. I hope you had yourself a very wonderful day today. The month of June is normally very cold in the capital. Today, Nairobians woke up to rains. Of course, it is a phenomenon that has been taking place for a very long time, but the battle against COVID-19 continues nonetheless. The ministry stressing that Kenyans ought to adhere to lay down guidelines that will ensure that the country is in a position to stem the spread of the coronavirus, which has continued to ravage different parts of the world. And as you make sure that you protect yourself and your loved ones against this coronavirus, we do thank you very much for joining us tonight for this edition of Channel One News. We'll have the statistics for you in a couple of minutes, but for now, we are going to take a look at highlights. Of course, a lot is lined up for you tonight, including a meeting between the national government, county government, and the national government agreeing on steps to take. Both governments in all the 47 counties will construct health facilities that will put the country in a very good position, a strong one, to ensure that it is able to combat the coronavirus pandemic. Here are the highlights.
If we fight the coronavirus from the ground up, from the county up to the national level, we cannot fail.
Seeking a united front, President Uhuru Kenyatta meets governors and agreed to work as a team to contain the coronavirus pandemic.
In a single 24-hour period, we have discharged 175 patients.
Changing tact, Ministry of Health now routes for coronavirus patients' home care-based approach as hospitals nearing stretching point as 105 more test positive. And it is a grim statistic as over 46,000 said to be living on the streets with nowhere to call home. Once again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. You can interact with us throughout this live broadcast on Twitter and on Facebook. My Twitter handle is at Ed Kabasa. You can also tweet us at KBC Channel 1. This live broadcast is also available on Facebook as well as YouTube and Twitter. We'll be glad to sample some of your views during and at the tail end of this live broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Byron Abuli. The national and county governments will work together to establish 30,500 isolation facilities with at least 300 beds in each of the 47 counties to enhance the national preparedness to manage a possible surge of the COVID-19 cases in the next 30 days. Places of worship will only be reopened after conclusion of consultations with religious leaders under the auspices of the Interfaith Council and shall be implemented in consultation with the Council of Governors. In a joint joint meeting at State House and chaired by Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, the two levels of government unanimously agreed on a raft of measures aimed at gradually and progressively reopening the economy. All right, that story will be available to you in a couple of minutes, but for now, the Ministry of Health has rolled out a home-based care protocol for COVID-19 patients due to increasing number of cases that may not all be isolated in public health facilities. Only asymptomatic patients and those that can demonstrate they can dedicate a well-ventilated room with limited number of caregivers are eligible for the program. The development coming as the country recorded the highest number of COVID-19 recoveries after 175 patients were allowed to leave hospitals having fully recovered. Some 105 people tested positive for the virus, bringing the total number of infections to 3,094. Purity Musel with that report.
Community-based coordinators will now be tasked with monitoring compliance for the home-based care program launched by the Minister of Health Wednesday, following increased number of COVID-19 cases in the country.
We are glad to inform you that today we are launching our home-based isolation and care guidelines for patients with COVID-19. This guideline is available on the Ministry of Health website.
Eligibility for the home-based isolation and care for patients includes laboratory-confirmed COVID-19, asymptomatic patients or patients with mild symptoms of COVID-19, absence of comorbidities, as well as access to a suitable space for the program. The decision to care for patients at home will also require careful clinical judgment by a doctor.
According to the available data that we have, 78% of infected persons, that is positive cases, admitted in our hospitals are either asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, and therefore can be managed at home, provided proper laid down procedures are followed.
At the same time, the country has recorded the highest number of COVID-19 recoveries after 175 patients were discharged from hospitals, having fully recovered, bringing the total number of recoveries to 1,048.
We shall be failing if we do not recognize the good work of our healthcare workers, whose effort and dedication has made it possible to record these many recoveries.
Coronavirus cases, however, surpassed the 3,000 mark Wednesday after the Minister of Health announced 105 additional cases, bringing the total number of infections to 3,094.
96 are Kenyans and 9 are foreigners. 77 are males and 28 are females. Nairobi with 43, Busia with 18, Mombasa with 11, Turkana 7, Migori 6, Kwale and Kiambu 5 each, Kilifi, Machakos and Taita Taveta 3 cases each, Kisumu 2, Uasin Gishu, Siaya, Kajiado and Garissa 1 case each.
Health Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Rashid Aman said the new infections included 96 Kenyans and 9 foreigners, the youngest being a 2-year-old. The oldest patient is aged 77. Despite most COVID-19 patients in the country being asymptomatic at 78%, the Minister of Health warns it's dangerous to assume things will remain the same as more complications of the virus could be witnessed in the coming days, and urges Kenyans to strictly adhere to guidelines on COVID-19 prevention. Purity Museo, Channel 1 News, Nairobi.
Thank you, Purity Museo, for that report. Let's revisit our earlier story, where national and county governments will work together to establish 30,500 isolation facilities with at least 300 beds in each of the 47 counties to enhance the national preparedness to manage a positive or a possible surge of the COVID-19 cases in the next 30 days. Places of worship will only be reopened after conclusion of consultations with religious leaders under the auspices of the Interfaith Council and shall be implemented in consultation with the Council of Governors. In a joint meeting at State House and chaired by Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, the two levels of government unanimously agreed on a raft of measures aimed at gradually and progressively reopening the economy.
The third extraordinary session of the National and County Governments Coordinating Summit between the national government and county governments resolved to work together towards cushioning Kenyans from the economic shocks occasioned by the COVID-19 disease through various economic stimulus programs. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who chairs the National Development Implementation and Communication Cabinet Committee, pledged additional support to border town counties to fortify their response to the pandemic and avert cross-border transmission of the virus.
This is a challenge that calls our county government to be a heartbeat away from our sick ones, with the national government giving you all the support that we can. If the moment has brought us this pandemic, so that we can embed health provisioning in the counties as envisioned in our constitution.
County governments have put in place restriction guidelines of social distancing, including the social gatherings at markets, hotels, churches. A total of 6.2 billion of county budget counties have been reallocated towards COVID-19 response.
Upon conclusion of consultations in the education sector on reopening of learning institutions, it was agreed a review of the academic calendar for the year 2020 shall be undertaken in consultation with the Council of Governors and all stakeholders in the education sector. County governments will facilitate 100% contact tracing by tracking confirmed cases of COVID-19 through logistical and operational support teams in sub-counties.
I believe that this extraordinary summit congregates to ponder and to sanction the development of time-bound protocols for the progressive reopening of our economy. And this is important because, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic is both a health crisis, but it is also a crisis to our economy as well.
We have worked hand in hand with each and everyone sitting in this room, because there is no county that has not been touched in one way or another.
In addition, all medical facilities across the country will remain open to offer essential health services, including reproductive health and immunization services in accordance with the Ministry of Health guidelines. County governments will be expected to implement and enhance awareness campaigns among residents through public sensitization campaigns.
We have given ourselves 30 days additional, and we have done this in order to ensure that our citizens remain safe. But I do believe that within that 30 days, each and every one of us must do that which is necessary to ensure that even as we open up in a manner that is safe, that protects our citizens, especially the elderly and those who have other ailments and ills.
The summit shall reconvene on Wednesday, the 17th June 2020, to consider the guidelines for gradual reopening of the economy and easing of containment measures to guide the progressive reopening of places of worship. For Channel 1 News, I'm Ben Troinjue.
Various women leaders have come out to support embattled Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru following her impeachment by the County Assembly. Led by Gender Affairs Cabinet Secretary Margaret Kobia, the leaders have argued that Waiguru's ouster is an indicator that some Kenyans do not value strong women leadership. The fate of the governor now lies with the Senate after Speaker Kenneth Lusaka on Wednesday confirmed being in receipt of the resolution of the impeachment motion. The Senate has once again been called upon to adjudicate the fate of another governor, just months after impeaching Ferdinand Waititu as governor of Kiambu.
A decision will have to be made because a motion will then have to be brought to the Senate indicating whether We are going to have a committee of 11 to look at the allegations made, then make recommendations, or we are going to have a plenary session just like we did with the Kiambu.
On Tuesday next week, senators will vote on modalities of hearing the impeachment of Kirinyaga Governor Anne Mumbi Waiguru by the County Assembly.
The SBC will make a proposal, then that proposal will be subjected to debate on the floor of the House on Tuesday.
A section of women leaders are, however, castigating Waiguru's ouster, arguing that it is an affront to women leadership in the country. On Wednesday, Gender Affairs Cabinet Secretary Margaret Kobia said Waiguru's impeachment is an indicator that some section of Kenya do not value strong women leadership. Kobia arguing that women are disappointed that the governor is being impeached during the fight against COVID-19, which is negatively impacting on socio-economic development of the country.
Mrs. Kobia has not received the evidence as we have brought it to the Senate. And I wish that women of this country, whom we do respect, they can take time and lead through and see what will come out of the Senate.
Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu on her Twitter account saying that the travesty visited upon Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru is one of the many crooked ways that PhD machinations are using to pull her down. The Maendeleo ya Wanawake organization also condemned Waiguru's impeachment, arguing that it was part of a wider scheme to target women leaders.
Don't judge Maendeleo harshly. We are only standing with the principles of this institution, and we are entitled to say we need women leadership to move forward.
However, not all women leaders appeared to side with the governor. Nakuru Senator Susan Kihika, who was last month removed from her role as Majority Whip in the Senate, on her Twitter account, argued that Ministry of Gender is perhaps not aware that she too is a woman. The lawmaker asking whether a similar protest letter by C.S. Kobia had been lost in the mail. The Senate will decide on whether to form an ad hoc committee to hear Waiguru's impeachment or hear the matter in a plenary before conducting a vote. The governor has since moved to court to challenge the move by the County Assembly. The government has embarked on a process of reclaiming 30 hectares of land belonging to the Nairobi City Park that had been grabbed by private developers. Environment Cabinet Secretary Keriako Tobiko said the park will be rehabilitated into a modern recreational facility to attract visitors while respecting its natural and cultural uniqueness.
Nairobi City Park, located in Nairobi's Parkland area, is one of Kenya's oldest urban gardens, which has been misused and neglected for decades. The park, which was initially 90 hectares, has now been reduced to only 60 hectares due to human and housing encroachment, pollution, poaching, and illegal logging in the park.
The park hosts a whole bunch of different things. It has a natural indigenous forest. It has landscape gardens. It has a pollinator garden. It has 2 cemeteries, including graves of the freedom fighter Pio Gama Pinto and of our second vice president, Joseph Murumbi. The park over the years has shrunk from its original 90 hectares to only 60, and we're really happy today to know that that 60 minimally will be protected.
However, under a program by the Ministry of Environment, the government intends to reclaim the remaining 30 hectares allegedly grabbed by private developers.
So what has been reclaimed is 60 hectares. So we're talking about another 30 hectares that are still in private hands. And we shall be inquiring into who and how and under what legal justification that was done.
Environment Cabinet Secretary Keriako Tobiko, who toured the park, said the historic site is set for dramatic transformation, which upon completion will create a serene environment for relaxing, picnic and taking leisurely walks.
So today we came here to have a meeting and brainstorming session with all the partners and City Park, friends of City Park and others, and to begin a long process, developing a roadmap, including fencing, ensuring security. This place must be clean, safe and healthy for all.
So we take nature walks once a month on a Saturday. Everyone is welcome. They're free. and to just give people information about the over 1,000 species of flora and fauna that exist in the park. So there's a big diversity of indigenous species as well as a big diversity of planted species. There were even plants bred here that went all around the world.
The exercise will involve environmental improvement, landscaping and creation of new facilities. The architecture of the park will include an amphitheater, swimming pool, football pitch, food courts and jogging tracks, among other social and income-generating facilities.
Common man will still be able to enjoy free. He can come and rest when he has gone looking for work the whole day and he didn't get any small job there. He wouldn't have any money to pay even for entry. So for me, I'll still maintain, let it be free entry. Free entry does not mean other things cannot be other business cannot be run within the park that will ensure that there is money that will be used to maintain the park.
The park will be managed by Kenya Forest Service. Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
Thank you very much, Ben Chumba, for that report. We are taking a short break, but don't go anywhere. We still have plenty more lined up for you, including news about over 60.
Hello, this is Dr. Patel. Why aren't you not picking up my call? Koja kwanza, wewe mimi na kama napigia wewe simu, wewe pana chukua simu. Wewe nataka advance salary, wewe nakuja ofisi, mimi napatia wewe advance 50,000.
Kupata advance, bonyeza star 811 star 817 hash.
Anakula mugoka na bana kingia kazi.
Hamjambo wa Kenya wenzangu. Mimi ni Mheshimiwa Mize. Ninalotaka kuambia ni kuwasihi ya kwamba corona iko. Na ili tupigane nayo na tuishinde. Ukikohoa, tafadhali kama una ile ya kujifunika ile tissue, weka mkono hapa. Kama ni chafya yako atyo na itabakia pale pale. Kama ni kukohoa yako koholea hapo. Na nakwambia tukizingatia sheria na tuitii, hii corona tutaishinda na nchi yetu tutarudi kama kawaida.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
You take my baby, eh? Ay. You take my baby and ram it onto another car, and then you try to escape.
Murume nakwambia zakayo hapo kwa mtu usiingilie, umesikia? Usiingilie matusi my friend, wewe.
Point of correction. I have never had a boyfriend. Certainly not Solomon.
It is okay. I knew you guys would never come to my rescue. And just a few minutes ago, you were helping Farah out. Why not me? Why not me?
Excuse you, you cannot compare the two of us. You deserve what you are getting. Why, Tito? Lua.
Take it. Stupid clothes that you've been bugging me with, stealing my peace. Kwenda. Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Thank you very much for keeping us company. A total of 46,639 individuals across the country are living on the streets, according to a census report released on Wednesday. The National Census Report on Street Families conducted in 2018 across all the 47 counties identified Nairobi as highly populated with a total of 15,337. Most polygamous marriages as the major reasons of moving into the streets. The Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection projects to use the data to formulate policies that will enable destitute families benefit from the social protection programs.
Street families continue to be a persistent problem on the streets of major urban centers across the country. A new report launched on Wednesday shows a total of 46,639 people live on the streets, with the highest population being men at 72%. Majority of the street inhabitants are aged between 19 to 34. Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Uasin Gishu and Nakuru have the largest populations, and reasons for moving into the streets vary between males and females. Men cite fear of being reprimanded, while women say domestic violence is to blame. Corporal punishment ranked highest for street persons aged between 15 to 19 years. The government says the study has created a means to deal with the situation.
Our wonder before was who are they, where are they, how many are they, and where are they how are they distributed nationally. Today, we have the numbers.
Among the mitigative measures the Social Protection Department seeks to incorporate is use of social workers to help integrate street persons back to their families and society, as well as offer financial support.
Deployment of social workers is because persuading somebody who has suffered maybe emotional, psychological, for them to open up is a journey. And so you will need a social worker talking with them today, tomorrow, until they open up.
The data will enable the ministry to draft policies that will guide implementation of rehabilitation of street families, develop the National Street Families Bill, and Street Families Trust Fund strategic plan. Our ultimate objectives and plan is to see no Kenyan in our streets.
In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government has used over 44 million shillings to rescue over 1,000 street families and place them in rehabilitation institutions.
Now, we still have people on the streets. Some refuse to go. Either those on the streets now are those who refuse to listen when we said we take them, or day scholars. Why do we have day scholars now? There is no food. If you look at this document, they push factors from their homes to the streets. If it is not because of corporal punishment, then it is poverty that has driven them there. And others just send their come to the streets to beg.
Already 231 million shillings has been set aside in the current financial year to support over 29 institutions that will oversee the process of rescuing and rehabilitating the vulnerable group. Kamchi Menza for Channel 1 News.
Thank you, Kamchi Menza, for that report. Dozens of flower farms and hotels in Naivasha have been marooned by floods from Lake Naivasha. According to experts, the freshwater lake is becoming shallower at a rate of 3 centimeters every year due to sediments from catchment areas and ongoing projects.
This is the situation in Lake Naivasha, Nakuru County. In the last couple of months, the levels in the lake rose to the highest levels ever, at 1,892.8 above sea level since 1906, when it stood at 1892 meters.
The lake is reclaiming its territory, and we must, as stakeholders in the basin, we must respect the contour of 1892.8 meters above sea level.
Lake Naivasha Riparian Association Secretary Silas Wanjala says the water body was one of the erratic in the region, and that those affected had encroached into the riparian land and constructed permanent structures. Wanjala warned that this has affected the quality of water in the lake and fishing sector is at risk.
Let us make sure we conserve the riparian lake as per the gazetted contour.
Lake Naivasha Basin Landscape Association Chairman Paul Rioya noted that runoff from Eburu and Aberdare Forest had contributed to the silt, leading to the rise in water levels.
Tuko na juhudi kubwa sana sisi kama shirika kwamba tunataka kukaa na wananchi, wakulima, wavuvi, wanabiashara, kuwahimiza kwamba umuhimu wa ziwa Naivasha ni jambo la maana sana.
He called on the government to increase budgetary allocation to environmental conservation and civic education for those around the lake.
Kama ni county government, kama ni national government, katika ile budget yao wanafanya kila mwaka, tumeona kwamba ile percentage wamepea environment, mambo ya mazingira, ni kidogo sana. Na ningewahimiza kwamba bila mazingira mazuri, hakuna maisha mazuri. Kwa hivyo waweke uzito katika ile budget ya environment.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Timothy Kipnusu.
Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni says his country is preparing a 40,000 bed-filled hospital in Nambole Stadium in the capital Kampala for coronavirus patients. This came as South Africa temporarily closed its Air Force headquarters in the capital Pretoria after 2 people working there tested positive for the coronavirus.
With more than 7 million people confirmed to have the coronavirus, Uganda is preparing a 40,000-bed field hospital at Nambole Stadium in the capital Kampala to cater for patients. Elsewhere, the headquarters of South African Air Force in the capital Pretoria has been temporarily closed after 2 people working there tested positive for coronavirus. The military said the building was evacuated on Tuesday as a precautionary measure and will be closed for 2 days for deep cleaning. The 2 people have since been quarantined, and the military advised all employees who had contact with the infected people over the last 14 days to get tested. South Africa has the highest number of coronavirus in the continent. Meanwhile, India's financial capital Mumbai has recorded 51,000 cases of COVID-19, taking it past the peak in Wuhan where the virus first emerged. The news comes amid a surge of infections in India, which has 266,598 confirmed cases. Maharashtra state, of which Mumbai is the capital, has 90,000 confirmed cases. Infections are also spiking in the capital Delhi, where authorities have said they expect to see more than 500,000 cases by end of July.
The Law Society of Kenya has come to the defense of Chief Justice David Maraga and the judiciary over the appointment of 41 judges currently in a stalemate. Speaking at the Nakuru Law Courts, Rift Valley Branch Society President Ochang Ajigo said they stand by CJ's claims that the executive was overstepping its constitutional mandate on separation of powers.
On Monday, Chief Justice David Maraga went public on what he termed as frustrations by the executive that adversely affected service delivery by the judiciary. The refusal by the president to appoint 41 judges as proposed by the Judicial Service Commission, rubbing the CJ up the wrong way. The executive, however, through Attorney General, accused Maraga of washing his dirty linen in public. The Law Society of Kenya has joined the debate. Rift Valley Society's president, Ochang Ajigo, said the executive is not working in line with the constitution, adding that the blatant disregard of the law will lead to anarchy.
If the government itself does not obey the laws, does not obey the court orders, Mwananchi himself will realize that there is no need, there is no use for courts, and the processes that will take place will lead us to total chaos that we will not be able to live as a nation.
Elsewhere, the installation of Deputy President William Ruto by Nandi elders as the Kalenjin spokesman and kingpin has continued to elicit sharp reactions among the political divide in the region. Tiati MP William Kamket said the cultural event was an act of political cowardice.
I was very amused at how a person who has been saying that he is a church person now is the one going to Muganga. Now, so who is the Muganga now?
Mambo ilifanyika huko Nandi, we welcome. The prophecy of the Talai is welcoming, and it is telling us that we are going a better place. And William Ruto is the future coming leader.
Let us take a look at stories making headlines in the counties. All the 6 families who were missing were in a building they were living in collapse in Kericho town Tuesday evening have all been accounted for. Kericho County Commander Silas Gishunge confirmed there were no more people trapped in the rubble. This as the body of a 6-year-old child retrieved from the debris of the ill-fated building. Details of this and more in stories making headlines in the counties.
Following an overnight rescue mission at the collapsed Teb's apartments in Kericho town, the local administration has announced that all 6 families who are still living in the building are safe and sound. According to Kericho County Commander Silas Gishuge, a body of a 6-year-old boy was retrieved from the collapsed building, while 2 occupants who sustained injuries were treated at Kericho County Referral Hospital and discharged. The building collapsed Tuesday at around 7:30 p.m.
You have summoned the engineer
and even people from NEM are here. They are going to assess. Then what they are going to tell us is if it is safer for the families to live here or not.
Residents of Busia County now want education and health sectors given priority in the 2020-2021 national budget. The residents fear the government might prioritize counties hard hit by COVID-19, arguing that the region's health and education sectors are in deplorable states.
Hata kama ni bilioni 5 ama milioni 5, usipate milioni 5, alitushindwa kaunti nyingine. So that governor wetu wa county atakuwa na enough chance ya kuongeza vitanda na kununua facilities au mashini ya kupima wale ambao wameathirika na huu ugonjwa wa COVID.
In Mombasa, the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims, SUPKEM, has urged the government to reopen mosques but with adherence to the COVID-19 national government's directives. Speaking in Kisauni, the religious leaders said praying is one of the strong pillars in Islam and a right to Muslim faithful.
Ikiwa nafasi imekuwa chache msikitini, watu wataswali nje, na county government itafunga mabarabara ili watu waswali kwa wakati wote, waswali pamoja.
In Nairobi, the Commissioner General of Prisons, Wycliffe Ogalo, says strict precautionary measures have been put in place to ensure that inmates do not contract coronavirus. Ogalo says currently prisons are out of bounds to outsiders.
We are able to fortify ourselves against this dreaded virus.
In Lamu, a section of school-going children lack free distribution of sanitary pads after schools were closed owing to COVID-19 pandemic. Area woman representative Ruera Obo says girls from pastoralist communities bear the brunt of the pandemic, calling on well-wishers to chip in and support the affected children.
Wasichana wanapata shida na changamoto zaidi ni stigma. Haki nimeenda kuzungumza kule mambo ya menstruation, kushika zile pads, kuzishika hizo sodo, wengine wanajificha, wanaona ni aibu kushika. Na ni kitu cha biologically, ni kitu Mwenyezi Mungu pia amekitaja, hata kwenye Qur'an imetajwa kwamba msilale na wanawake zenu wakiwa kwenye hizo hali za hedhi.
In Kiambu, a section of residents of Kari, Waithaka are spending the night in the cold after their homes were destroyed by raging floods in the area during the April's long rains. The victims tell of the hard times, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Ni kama nini? Ziwa. Ni very deep. Watoto wakienda kucheza na wanaenda kuangalia maji pale, wanaweza kuzama huko.
In Kisumu, the National Water Harvesting and Storage Authority will pay 2 billion shillings to compensate landowners in the Korusoin Dam project. The authority's board chairman, Eric Okeo, says the project shall affect 206 parcels of land in Kisumu and 110 in Kericho County.
We have almost made our people be reliant on just relief food, as though there is no effort to work. This project will ensure that our people have useful economic activity and that they are not displaced.
Irene Mchuma Odim, Channel 1.
Thank you very much, Irene Muchuma Odim, for that report. We are taking another break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more news.
Top on Channel 1. Yote aliye na kinga hafifu mwilini yuko katika hatari ya kuambukizwa COVID-19.
Charo!
Yaani mpaka uambiwe mpenzi ndio useme. Sipi nakueleza siku zote kuna kitu kati ya Aisha na Zomo.
Kuna kitu gani? Ngoja. Yaani hapa ni kupakuana tu.
Ndio huwa sisi tupakuana.
COVID-19 inazuilika. Jilinde, linda familia na jamii. tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Oh, think twice. Just another day for you. You and me in Kingston Town. I got soul, reggae music rocking my bones. The lions in the jungle. We are the lions in the jungle. More the rises, the more this fight never end. But they will never conquer.
Thank you for staying with us. Hours before National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani unveils the 2.7 trillion shilling budget, Kenyans are hopeful that it will be a budget that will reduce the cost of living. Those who spoke to KBC Channel 1 said movement restrictions and social distancing recommendations have led to reduced businesses and income, hence the need for the government to propose a Mwananchi-friendly budget.
The government imposed movement restrictions in efforts to slow the spread of coronavirus. This has adversely affected business activities, especially those in the informal sector. To cope and adapt to the effects of the economic slowdown, Kenyans want National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani to unveil a budget that will lower the cost of living by reducing the cost of basic and essential goods.
Watu wanaumia sana na kuna watu hawana uwezo. Unakuta kwamba watu wengine wanafanya hizi kazi za ndogo ndogo zile na unga iko juu. So utakuta kwamba watu wengi wanaumia sana.
They have not zero-rated anything. Things they are just as normal as they have been. In fact, they are worse.
Adhirika kabisa. Ile tunaomba nchi yetu tunaomba kiongozi wetu aweze kushukisha vitu bei kama gas, mafuta ya taa. Wakulima wa chini wanatumia mafuta ya taa. Tunaomba ishukishwe bei.
Taxes and levies, especially for small businesses and investment adversely affected by coronavirus, is another concern that Kenyans want looked into.
Iangalie hospitality industry. A lot of compensation needs to be done na hii budget yenye inakuja at least to revamp that particular sector kwa sababu it's a very big income earner for this republic.
Pia wale watu wa chini ambao wameathirika na biashara kidogo kidogo kama bodaboda ambao wamerent na wale wa mama wa mboga na matunda kidogo kidogo ambao sasa hizi hawafanyi kazi.
Watu wa biashara ndogo ndogo ambao walifunga wakati kuliweka lockdown. Kama serikali inaweza tafuta njia nyingine ya kuwapatia compensation, kuwatafutia fedha ili waweze kurudisha biashara zao, kwa sababu hatujui hii maradhi ya coronavirus itachukua muda gani.
Tarajia hata kwa hii budget kuna pesa fulani imewekwa kando ya kuajiri vijana. Vijana watoke mtaani waache kutumia madrugs na wapate employment.
Others are calling on Yatani to unveil a budget that will not require Kenyans to borrow more, noting that the country needs to live within her means.
We are unable to sustain even the economy of our country. So at least the president should do something, plus the PS for treasury, so that at least Kenyan can be at least of somehow good.
The budget will be unveiled on Thursday afternoon. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
When he stood to present the 2019-2020 fiscal year budget, former National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich oozed optimism after years of moderate growth. 2020 was the year for the Kenyan economy. Economic growth was projected at 6.5%, while budget deficit was expected to fall from 6.3% to 4.3% in the current financial year. But that was the shiny days of the Kenyan dream before coronavirus sent the global economy into a spiral, as Brian Kimani now reports.
The Kenyan economy recorded an average growth of 5.4% for the first 3 quarters of 2019, compared to an average of 6.0% in a similar period in 2018. The stubborn growth was blamed on slowdown in agricultural activities due to poor weather, which choked agricultural production, and decreased output in transport and electricity activities due to the rise in prices of fuel and insufficient long rains in the first and second quarters, respectively. Treasury Honkos painted a rosy picture in 2020 on account of improved rainfall and improved macroeconomic stability. But that was then. In the last quarter of 2019, a new crisis was boiling in China, the world's second largest economy and a leading trading partner for Kenya. The coronavirus shattered the Chinese economy before snowballing into a global crisis in March, when the World Health Organization classified the virus as a global pandemic, urging world leaders to redirect their energies towards battling the crisis. Countries reacted by closing their borders, banning foreign visitors, while investors paused their investment decisions.
The whole government should mobilize the whole society and making the response every citizen's business. If we do that, we can push back on this virus. We can be successful in the containment strategy.
When Kenya reported its first case of the virus, the country went into a panic mode.
All persons who have come into Kenya in the last 14 days must self-quarantine. If any person exhibits symptoms such as cough or fever, they should present themselves to the nearest health facility for testing.
The government imposed a dusk to dawn curfew. Foreign visitors were banned, while inter-county travels in 5 regions were prohibited. The biggest casualties were tourism, hospitality industry, and trade. In 2019, tourism earnings grew by 3.9% to 164 billion shillings as arrivals defied terror threats and global geopolitics to remain above the 2 trillion mark.
This COVID pandemic, fellow Kenyans, is not only a health crisis, but it is also fundamentally an economic crisis. Jobs have been lost, businesses have had to close, and the economy is generally on a go-slow.
The coronavirus pandemic is likely to have a major impact on the economic growth, not only in the year 2020, but in the years ahead. And according to statistical evidence from various quarters, the Kenyan economy is likely to register its weakest growth in more than 15 years, or worse, sink into a painful recession.
In 2019, tourism earnings grew by 3.9% to 163.6 billion shillings as arrivals defied threats and global geopolitics to remain above the 2 million mark. The horticulture industry nosedived as demand for products shrank. The sector that earned the country 147 billion shillings in 2019 is now struggling to even hit the 100 billion shillings mark in 2020. By the end of April, the sector reported losses running into 8 billion shillings, while close to 50,000 jobs have been lost due to the virus. The Kenya Revenue Authority was hoping to collect 1.9 trillion shillings in the current fiscal year. However, in the 6 months to December 2019, KRA collection was 88 billion shillings behind target. In a budget policy statement tabled in April this year, Treasury told lawmakers that by the end of March, the tax collector was facing a 250 billion shillings collection hole, and the figure is likely to hit 400 billion shillings due to the impact of the COVID-19.
It's almost 3 months since the government directed that all schools be closed to contain coronavirus pandemic. And as schools prepare to reopen on September 1st, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani is expected to ensure an intricate balance of keeping learners in school by allocating funds for school feeding program and modernizing ICT infrastructure to support education system. Here is Alan Naoko with the details.
The coronavirus pandemic has hit countries hard, and for Kenya, as it tries to budget for ICT and education, it is time to look at how this time they are joined at the hip as the coronavirus takes a big chunk of the country's budget.
President Uhuru Kenyatta on March 15th this year ordered all schools to be closed due to coronavirus pandemic. By this time, learners mostly in the urban centers already had a significant advantage in that their ICT infrastructure was already in place to enable remote learning.
I want to confirm to honorable members that yes, we have guidelines which are drawn from the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development Act, which guides all of us on this particular question on electronic media learning for schools.
The whole country is now fully aware of why we need technology. We're doing all these video conferencing conversations, people are working from their homes. We need to have all the right connectivity.
According to Education Ministry estimates, it will need additional allocation in order to carry out its annual functions and also special projects that will enable such activities across the country.
We have allocated an additional 6.5 billion shillings to the Ministry of Education. The purpose of this is to hire an additional 10,000 teachers and an additional 1,000 ICT interns to support our digital learning program.
Education CS George Magoha, upon reception of the final report of the COVID-19 National Education Response Committee, hinted at an extended closure of schools, saying countries that rush to reopen schools amid rising infections eventually close them.
The situation becomes completely out of control, then we shall have to bite the bullet. The children are alive and they are at home. So what? They are at home and they are safe and they are alive. And if it means that they have to stay for a year, so be it. It is not only in Kenya where this is happening. But who knows? We could be in control in 2 months and we open and go to school. So please don't open a metal pipe and force me to say, give us dates.
Treasury is further expected to provide allocation to the school feeding program, which is facing funding gaps after the departure of development partners in order to keep learners in school when learning commences. The 2020-2021 budget comes at a time the government is facing massive revenue shortfalls, catalyzed by the COVID-19 economic fallout. Movement restrictions have meant a significant amount of commerce has gone electronic. National Treasury is now keen to ensure introduction of digital service tax in the new fiscal year, targeting all income derived or accrued in Kenya on online platforms.
Stress not only on debt, but also meeting other obligations in terms of financing government. But I want to assure Kenyans that the interventions that we put in place will sustain our trajectory of growth by making sure that we do not default on debt payment and Kenyans do not suffer.
Treasury argues that the online marketplace has grown significantly, warranting the levy. Online sales hit the 1.6 trillion shillings mark in the last quarter of 2019 and could double by the end of 2020, making the business a lucrative tax target. The Finance Bill 2020 proposes that the income from digital marketplace be levied at a rate of 1.5%. The tax, which was introduced in the current financial year, lacked regulations to allow its implementation. Nonetheless, the digital marketplace supply regulations is currently being subjected to stakeholder consultation and is expected to be in place in the new financial year to allow KRA collect the tax.
Kenya is one of the luckiest countries in the world because it already had ICT infrastructure in place that even the education sector can now ride on as the coronavirus continues to ravage on. With a budgetary allocation to the ICT sector prior the coronavirus pandemic, it seems it was a good call, at least for now. Alan Aoko, Pre-Budget 2020-2021.
Illicit trade in Kenya is growing faster than the manufacturing sector, threatening jobs and investments. A report by the Anti-Counterfeit Agency shows that the value of counterfeit trade grew from 726 billion shillings in 2017 to 826 billion shillings in 2018. This represents a 10% growth in counterfeit trade compared to a 4.2% growth of the manufacturing sector recorded during the same period.
The survey shows the black market took away 102 billion shillings from the government revenue coffers in 2018. In addition, the manufacturing sector lost 7,484 jobs between 2016 and 2018 due to a 40% loss of the market to illicit trade. 66% of Kenyans are said to have knowledge or to know about illicit trade, but only 49% of them can identify substandard goods. And this means that someone may know that there is illicit trade out there, but when they see a substandard good, they end up buying it not knowing that it is substandard. The multi-agency team on illicit trade says more awareness creation needs to be done to make the fight against contrabands all-inclusive.
If you buy counterfeit, you are building counterfeit. So if you buy counterfeit, you are killing Kenya.
This is a menace which is going not only to kill our people, but also our economy and our country.
Look at the drugs, medicine. What are we consuming? Look at even the affordable housing. You have seen the cables that we are using for electrification and all those things. Our appeal as government is that everybody, members of the public, must join in.
Officials acknowledge that counterfeiting has become a real menace and that the National Illicit Trade Observatory and enacting anti-contraband laws at the county level would be instrumental in containing illicit trade in Kenya.
We will be encouraging our governors to make sure that at least they participate and encourage their county assemblies to come up with practical laws, not copy-pasting laws from different counties, because they have different challenges.
It's going to be knowledge sharing, it's going to be increasing our enforcement, it's going to be speaking with the counties, it's going to be, we need to look at our bilateral arrangements with foreign countries. So it's going to be a whole myriad of issues that we need to do to continue to fight.
The report shows that counterfeiting is highest in building, mining and construction, followed by energy, electrical and electronics. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
And in other matters, Satish Kamath has left his role at Safaricom as the Chief Financial Officer to take up a similar role at Vodafone Business. Safaricom CEO Peter Ndegwa says the telco will in due course announce Kamath's replacement.
Satish Kamath joined Safaricom as the Chief Financial Officer and Executive Director on the board on 1st August 2016 from Vodacom, Tanzania, where he held a similar position. Kamath is credited with, among many other achievements, improving business performance through Fit for Future initiatives, adding 6 percentage points on pre-tax margins. The telco says Kamath played a key role in completion of acquisition of M-Pesa joint venture from Vodafone and purchase of critical spectrum while ensuring efficient use of company's funds. He also assumed broader responsibility in navigating the company through the phase when Bob Kolimu was on medical leave and through transitions thereafter. Meanwhile, UAP Old Mutual Faulu Foundation and Gertrude's Hospital Foundation have announced a joint initiative to provide free COVID-19 testing for vulnerable children and personal protective equipment to healthcare workers in Nairobi. UAP Old Mutual Group CEO Arthur Oginga has emphasized the need for continued corporate support in the fight against COVID-19.
For those who live in low-income populations, although the government is providing some testing, some of them may not have access for lack of transport and for many things. And also more particularly for children, because children are not symptomatic, so parents will not remember to take them for testing. So through this partnership, then we are going to provide testing for children in low-income populations.
The partnership with Gertrude's Hospital Foundation today will ensure that children, vulnerable children and their families are tested, and that testing is done in a safe environment for the healthcare workers conducting those tests.
The program will be implemented through the Gertrude's Children's Hospital outreach program in urban slum areas where healthcare support for children is much needed.
Let's take a look at some sports news now, where Athletics Kenya says it has no plans of cancelling the Nairobi leg of the World Athletics Intercontinental Tour slated for the September 26th this year. The Federation Deputy Chair, Paul Mutui, says the Federation will seek a nod from the government on the matter.
The Nairobi Athletics meeting, one round of the World Athletics Intercontinental Tour, was set to be held on 2nd May, but was postponed to September due to the fears of the spread of coronavirus. Athletics Kenya has said that it has no plans of cancelling the hosting rights, but will seek permission from the government.
For the
happenings with this coronavirus, we have set competitions for track and field, whereby we are intending all counties to have their competitions by August 1st. And then after that, we go to regional competitions and athletes competitions, which is supposed to take place latest on the 8th of August. And then finally, we go for national championship, which is slated to take place on the 21st, 22nd of August. Out of this, we will have known which athletes are capable of representing us during this continental competition.
The tour will feature mostly events that have been removed from the Diamond League prime time since the inaugural 2020 season. They include 200 meters, 3,000 meters steeplechase, discus, hammer and triple jump. Meanwhile, AK officials have confirmed that the planned Maori Plant inaugural race that is set for tomorrow at Nyayo National Stadium will go on as planned, while 1,500 meters champion Timothy Cheruiyot held a training session at the stadium together with his teammates.
We are trying now to come back, and the whole world is trying to find ways of coming back to normal competition. Although we call it the new normal, it is not going to go back to the same way we were doing things. And now the whole world is trying to find the best way of having our athletes compete without exposing them to coronavirus.
The race will be held in memory of Maori Plant, Australia's significant figures in athletics who passed on in January. Frederick Muki for Channel 1 Sports.
And to some international football news, where Chelsea's N'Golo Kante has resumed full contact training with his teammates after training alone for a while due to COVID-19 fears. The 29-year-old was allowed to train at home by the club, even with his teammates reporting to a Cobham training centre for limited training at the league, as the league looks to resume on 17th June. The France international caused concern among teammates in 2018 when he fainted after a training session. Kante has made 18 league appearances for Frank Lampard's side this season. Chelsea's first game back is at Aston Villa on 21st of June, and they host champions Manchester City 4 days later. And on that note, we wind up this bulletin. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. On behalf of the team here, including my sign language interpreter, Byron Aboli, my name is Edward Kabasa. Do have yourself a very wonderful and quiet evening ahead. Up next is the weather forecast.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to Channel 1 Weather Updates. My name is Irene Mchuma Odim. It's raining over a few places in the capital as well as the Central Highlands. The Lake Basin region is experiencing showers accompanied by thunderstorms over a few places. This, as the rest of the country, is experiencing partly cloudy conditions. Now, the cold season is here with us again. We are advised to keep warm as this could result to cold-related diseases. These are some of the pictures we were able to capture for you from Kericho County. Similar weather conditions are expected to persist. This as the capital is expected to experience temperatures as low as 18 degrees Celsius during this cold season. Thursday, most counties across the country will experience sunny conditions, save for Meru, Nyeri and Nairobi, where cloudy conditions will prevail with light rains. Also in Lamu, Malindi and Mombasa, we're expecting showers over a few places, few areas over the Lake Basin region, but then over the northwestern parts of the country, we're expecting cloudy conditions to prevail. In the afternoon, the rain intensity at the Lake Basin region will increase, and Kisii, Kericho, Kitale, Kakamega, Bomet, and Eldoret will experience showers which will be accompanied by thunderstorms over several places. At the coastal strip, sunny conditions will prevail, perfect weather for outdoor activities. Similarly to northwestern parts of the country, cloudy conditions will prevail over the northeastern parts of the country. Temperatures have gone up again. The capital will experience maximum of 24 degrees Celsius. Mandera will experience the highest temperatures across the country at 36 degrees Celsius. That is your weather here in the home country. Let's now have a look at the international forecast. Do have a good night and a blessed day ahead.